Hello, fellow seekers. Welcome back to the Law of One Spiritual Advice Podcast. My name is Elle, and I return to speak on some Law of One material and share with you my opinions and perceptions on it. And today, we should hopefully have a good one ahead of us. It might be a little bit longer, but I would suggest you stick with me as I am going to pepper some truth nuggets throughout this one, and even a couple of unique findings which I have found myself, which you probably have not heard anywhere specifically. And I've held on to this for a while, so I don't know, I felt like this is a good podcast to work this into, so stay tuned. And I will tell you the topics today. So it's mostly going to be about living in truth, being honest, not lying, and then we're going to take it a step further even into Gematria and like words of power and sort of like, abracadabra. I create what I speak. I create my universe. And another thing that we're going to also talk about, which actually is to do with the honesty section, is politeness versus compassion. Are they the same thing? Guess what? There is a difference between being polite and being compassionate. And yeah, so that is basically it. The quote that I chose today, which sort of inspired this, is from the raw material, The Law of One, which you can find at theoneinfinitecreator.com on my website. There's links to all of this for free to read. So this is from session 101.8, and raw answers. The entity which is given constant and unremitting approval by those surrounding it suffers from the loss of the mirroring effect of those which reflect truthfully rather than unquestioningly. This is not a suggestion to reinstate judgment, but merely a suggestion for all those supporting instruments, that is, support be harmonious, share in love, joy, and thanksgiving, but find love within truth, for each instrument benefits from this support more than the total admiration which overcomes discrimination. End of quote. So that's session 101.8. And I'm just going to add in here for further context what about honesty and how it's linked to the blue throat chakra of communication, which is just above the heart chakra. So in session 48.7, Ra also states, there is always some difficulty in penetrating blue primary energy, for it requires that which your people have in great paucity, that is, honesty. Blue ray is the ray of free communication with self and with other self. All right, so obviously I've added that in there. I believe I'm saying it right. Paucity, it means in a small amount. So basically, our culture is not very good with honesty. We are not very good with being honest. In my opinion, what I notice in my sort of everyday life is people are more concerned with being polite than being honest. And I think a better way to look at it is to break it down a little differently. So I'm going to quickly explain something to you called the Big Five personality test. It is, psychologists have come up with this test, which breaks down everyone's personality into sort of 5 discernible categories. Just to share briefly with you, one of those categories is agreeableness. Agreeableness, people who are high in agreeableness, they tend to be compassionate people. So I'm assuming if you're listening to this, you may have some agreeableness within you. This agreeableness often manifests itself in you and in other people as avoiding confrontation. So you're just wanting to get along with everybody. You would like everyone not to have confrontation. You very much just sort of want the best for everybody, but in your avoidance of confrontation, you may miss sometimes being honest and truly being able to serve somebody with, maybe a harsh truth, but a harsh truth delivered with love. So agreeableness in these psychologists' breakdown is broken down into 2 categories, which is the category of politeness and compassion. So me, myself, being a lover of truth, will find myself very quite high in agreeableness, but not super high in agreeableness. I can't remember exactly what my number is, but it's up maybe in the 80%, 90%, somewhere up there. And how it breaks down into the 2 categories, into politeness versus compassion, is, well, my compassion is very high. I'm up in the 90%, but my politeness is quite low. I'm, probably closer to like 60% in the politeness category. And so why is that? Well, it's probably very very much because of the quote that I just read to you. In my seeking of the truth, I have found that most people avoid the truth and they sort of cope and project in other ways, which helps them to avoid looking at the truth, because the truth isn't always easy and love and light. It's also the shadow, and the closer you are to the light, the more defined your shadow is. So people, in wanting to avoid their shadows, will very much attempt to just be polite and avoid maybe the hard truth of things. So I believe that whenever you are attempting to serve somebody, it's not just about what feels good for that person. I think this is where a lot of confusion happens when it comes to attempting to serve others and maybe even ourselves. We think that to make them feel good and good feelings is to serve them. But, maybe you need to have a wider perception of what it means to serve somebody. That I'm not saying that you go out and you create harm, but it's okay to ruffle some feathers from time to time, is my interpretation of this. Now, when you ruffle the feathers, you still need to be careful and do it with love. I believe, I don't know the quote right from, I don't have it in front of me, but from my head, never mind. Sorry, the quote that I just read you states right here, that is, all supporting instruments, so all people, that is your support or your attempts to serve, be harmonious. Share in love, joy, and thanksgiving, but find love within truth. For each instrument benefits from this support more than from the total admiration which overcomes discrimination. So you can see right here, they're saying you can deliver a harsh truth as long as you do it with love, and you do it with love, joy, thanksgiving, gratitude, and you support the other person as you maybe are delivering this truth to them, which allows you to judge, but you're discriminating in a way. Discriminating is not a bad thing. Discriminating is how you decide what you want to do anytime you do anything, right? But you're discriminating the truth from maybe non-truth or less truth or a less pure truth, and instead, stepping past the admiration and allowing a little bit of questioning to go on. And I believe that that is healthy and fair, and our world would be in a lot better position if people were more concerned with the truth and less concerned with just being polite. I do believe that you can probably achieve both. You can be very polite and deliver the truth. I just think that you need to make sure you understand in your head that if you create some difficult feelings in somebody else from something that you've said, as long as you believe that you have good intentions in why you're saying it and you are attempting to deliver that message in love with the intent of serving the other person and not to be a stumbling block upon their path, then I believe that you are doing well in your attempts to serve, and you can widen what it means to serve somebody. It's not just giving hugs and back rubs and things like that. I feel sometimes a nice truth delivered at the perfect moment can be an eye-opener for somebody. And remember also that even when you try to deliver some sort of truth, you may attempt to serve somebody, it may not be received very well, and things could seem very bad, actually. But then maybe a year from now, 6 months from now, a couple of months from then, that person still really thinks about what you said. And so just make sure that what you said was kind and caring, and it came from a place of concern, of love. And then we can go even further into this, into a sort of subcategory of speaking the truth, and that is not lying. I believe it is important to not lie. I myself really attempt to never lie. Honestly, I really attempt to never lie. I find myself doing a little white lie here and there, and then I question myself as to, should I have done that? Was that appropriate? Things like that. But from what I have heard, some advice which seemed very helpful to me was that, well, you should just go out there and you should speak the truth. And well, what is speaking the truth? The truth varies for each person to a degree. A better way maybe to explain it is to do not say things that make you feel like icky inside. Like, only say things that feel right to say, that feel correct. If you are repeating some mantra from some other person, some other thing that the TV has told you to say, and you don't really believe in it, I mean, I would just be careful with that, because as I was stating at the beginning here, which I'm going to link in right here, abracadabra, if you've ever heard that, abracadabra means I create what I speak. And I believe that the sort of powers of this world are very much aware of what I'm telling you about, and they would like to shield that from you, understanding that your consciousness is power, and not only is it what you think is what you create, but what you speak is what you create, because what you speak, to speak something, to say something out loud, means you've already had to run it through your consciousness and agree with a certain part of it in order to say those words. So if you're saying things that don't feel truthful and correct to you, then I would just suggest you do not say them. You find another way to say whatever you need to say in other words, and just don't say things that make you feel weak, that make you feel incorrect inside. You say things that are of the truth, and the truth holds power. Like, the service to self entities of this planet, they lie and manipulate, and they are the children of the lie, as I've heard it be called before. And very much so, the lie is to pull you into lies, to pull you into confrontation. The service to self people, they want to pull you into the dirt, into the muck. And what you can do instead of fighting the fire with fire, is you stand there in truth, and you just be as you are and be unmovable in that truth, because you know that to be true. And the truth doesn't necessarily always need defending. The truth will manifest in time as it will, and the lies will dissipate, and the lies are only temporary, and they may hold temporary power, but they will fall eventually to the truth. So, I was coaching somebody in my work the other day, and they mentioned to me, which I very much appreciated as we were talking about a similar thing, was that instead of having somebody create a storm and they want to pull you into their storm, you be peace and you pull them into your peace. And if they don't want to be in your peace, they will vacate, they will leave. They may attack even to a certain degree, and maybe that is even more time to be steadfast in the truth and hold strong. And as they realize they have no power over you because you stand in the light and the love and the truth, they will give up and they will go away. And so anyways, I just want you to know the power of the truth and the power of the metaphysical side of life, which allows you to stand in that truth. And so don't be pulled into the dark. You need to remain in your light, which we're going to go even further into my unique portion, which I was mentioning earlier I would like to share with you, which is sort of a gematria / words of power, as I sometimes call them. So let me explain what I'm talking about. I had this idea many, many years ago, I don't know, like 7 years ago or even more, something like this, where I thought to myself, wow, you know what? There seems to be, especially when I read the Law of One material, certain words that Ra uses, and those words seem to hold very important energy seemingly behind them, or else why would Ra pick those words? They seem to be very meticulous about what they pick in their word choice. So that was sort of a tip off, and then hearing this whole abracadabra stuff in just general esoteric knowledge, you hear that. And then you hear of this thing called Gematria, where they basically what they do is they convert words and the letters of those words into numbers. And then those numbers will somewhat give a pattern, or maybe just like a signature of the energy based on the number that it gives you. And, if you have maybe two completely different words, but the letter combination addition equals the same number, well, you can maybe find a connection between those two words. And you can explore this and go further, which I did. So I just want to state with Gematria, there are many different ways to do the math. There's like Jewish Gematria, English Gematria, simple Gematria. Gematrix.org will let you convert words yourself into different numbers. Just please don't go crazy. I want to give you this warning ahead of time. This is some weird sort of schizo area of life, and you need to be careful when entering these areas because you don't want to go too far and fall off the track of love and fall into conspiracy and find particulars. I'm just bringing this up because I happen to know it, and I happen to believe that there is a couple of things I've learned from it which are worth sharing, and they show you the power behind words and numbers and letters and things like this and intention. So, what should I share first? I already stated that words are powerful, and the words that you choose to speak hold a certain energy behind them. So how do we find that energy? Well, the way that I decided to do my gematria, I just sort of came up with this in my head. I didn't realize that other people already did this, but I did, I believe, what's called the simple gematria. But anyways, just simply, it is A equals 1, B equals 2, C equals 3, D equals 4, E equals 5, all the way up to Z equals 26. So there is your 26 numbers for your 26 letters in the alphabet. And what I did in my head over sort of months and even years was whenever a word of power or significance came to my head or in a book or anywhere that I saw that I just felt like you hear it in culture often used in a repetitive manner, and or just in certain situations, and you know that if anyone's using those words or even those combination of words, that there is a certain energy behind that. And so I felt like to explore those types of words were to be more evident in what I'm finding. Does that make sense? It seems like the more powerful of word I choose, the more obvious the number, sort of the more obvious the connection is to other numbers, and the more that the truth may be discerned, or, I don't know the truth, but you know what I'm trying to say, the harmonics can be discerned behind the number. So in my craziness of thinking these types of thoughts, I thought that I would create a book, and each page in my book, just a blank book of white pages, will contain a number, all the way 1 up to almost to 300. And then as I would find a significant word that I felt maybe be a powerful word, I would find out the gematria number of it, so the number translation of the word, and I would then go to that page in the book, like say page 100, and if this word equals 100, then I will go to page 100 and write that word down. And over time, as I write many, many different types of words down, you'll find many different words ending up on the same page, and then you can make connections between certain words and sort of reveal some weird things, as we may call them, synchronicities. So, without further ado, I wish to share with you one of the more intense ones, I suppose. No, let me start with an easy one, okay? So here's a real simple version, even a little elementary. So the number 1, 2, 3, the word sequential lands on the number 1, 2, 3. Well, what is 1, 2, 3? 123, 1, 2, 3. Those are a sequence of numbers. So the word sequential equals 123. Infinitely equals 123. Well, what do you do when you count? You count 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay, great. So anyways, there's a real small one. The one that I really liked, and I will just add a little addendum on here, is that I'm not necessarily a Jesus type person. However, you could almost call me a mystical Christian, I suppose, in that I do resonate with everything in the Law of One material. Carla, the one who channeled a lot of this stuff, is a Christian herself. She would always challenge her channelings of entities in the name of Jesus Christ, who she believes is Lord. I believe the same thing, just in a more metaphorical way, where Christ is metaphorical of the heart chakra. No one comes to the Lord except through me, through the heart. Nobody goes to the Father and the third eye except through the heart of the heart chakra, right? Which is the Christ, is the energy. So with that, I just wanted to say that, like, I'm not I'm not like a dogmatic Christian, but I do find that what I'm about to tell you is just very interesting. So the word Jesus Christ, I guess those are two words, put them together, but Jesus Christ obviously is a word that people use a lot, and they use it in a very powerful manner, and they repeat it, and there is power in repetition, and many people doing the same thing at the same time or at different times using that energy, right? So Jesus Christ equals the number 151, which if you add those numbers together, 1 plus 5 plus 1 equals 7, which is sort of also a number associated with Christ, but that's not what I wanted to go into. What I wanted to let you know is Jesus Christ equals 151. There are other words on this page which also equal 151, which are related to Christ. And I will admit I am reaching with some of these, and I'm just going to try to pick you some of the better ones, okay? So forbidden fruit equals 151. Christ the King equals 151. Unconditional equals 151. Selfless love equals 151. Holy Spirit equals 151. The Holy Father equals 151. Jesus is Lord equals 151. You hear that one all the time. This one is really, really good. Balance of male and female. So I know that's a lot of words put together. How did I even find out that equals 151? Well, I had the idea to look up balance of male and female. The balance of male and female. Remember how I just told you Jesus Christ is the heart chakra in the center? It's the center chakra. Well, the preceding chakras are the more masculine, the male energies, and the ones above the heart chakra are the more feminine ones. And so you have the Christ in the middle, balance of male and female. That equals 151. The Christ key equals 151. No conditions equals 151. What did I want to really connect to you, to be the good one that you can tell people even, just to be easy, to give them a little peek into this sort of thing? Well, Jesus Christ equals 151. Antichrist equals 121. If you, from my understanding, there is Christ and the Antichrist is always inverted. Anti is the inverted Christ. Well, if you invert the numbers 151 in your brain, they create a 121. And so, yes, Antichrist equals 121. Jesus Christ equals 151. I wanted that one always just stuck out to me. So let's flip on over here to page 124, because the law of 1 equals 124. What also equals the law of 1? Or 124? I love you. I love you equals 124. The law of 1 equals 124. I like that. And the one which I thought was like a pretty massive mind blow to me was the fact that if you have read the Law of One, the raw material, you will understand that they often will use the words in sequence, the one infinite creator. And they often will describe the one infinite creator as somewhat indescribable and mystery. But what do they say? The one infinite creator is, in another sense, is intelligent infinity. Well, my friends, the one infinite creator equals 233, and intelligent infinity equals 233. That one just blows me away. I don't know why. I guess it's just because intelligent infinity is such a obscure words to equal the one infinite creator, and as the fact that they use intelligent infinity as a descriptor of the one infinite creator. And you might ask me, well, El, you added the at the beginning of the one infinite creator. And yes, I did, because they often don't use one infinite creator. If just in language you use one infinite creator, it does imply one, but it could almost imply like many ones, right? Whereas if you talk the one infinite creator, there is only the one, okay? So the one infinite creator, to me, just they use it more. And the fact that it also, I guess, equals intelligent infinity was sort of a tip-off. So yeah, I don't know, a couple other things on the page that equal 233, compassionate wisdom, follow the white rabbit, confirmation in number, and one infinite universe. But anyways, those ones are just sort of add-ons for you there. Okay, so there is just a small dive into the Gematria world. I suppose the point of me showing or telling you that was just some really shaky proof, right? There's no proof really about metaphysical, so that's why it does sound crazy. But for the people who can intuit what I'm getting at there is a little bit of sort of proof as to there is some energy behind words and the word choices that you are choosing to use. And so I would just, be conscious of that, second guess the things that you are going to say. And honestly, I would just attempt to never lie. I just feel like if you lie, you're somewhat embracing non-truth, and you're not only believing in it, but manifesting it by speaking it, which will lead to other literal physical manifestations and changes in your mind. And I even heard that when you lie, it changes the chemistry of your brain and your morality, where you get used to lying and then you don't know how to not lie, or it's hard for your brain to discern what feels good and doesn't feel good in terms of lying and not lying, because you generally shouldn't feel good when you lie unless you're a sociopath. Okay, so I think that was good. And just wrapping up here again, the whole idea of this podcast is just to speak honestly, speak truthfully, but do remember, because I forget this I often in my seeking, to do it with love and compassion. Don't try to slight the other person or get back at them. Just attempt to serve them. Like, sometimes does that mean that you can criticize them to a point that makes them think? Like, yes, you can. It's okay to criticize people. It's okay to challenge people. Just do it with good intentions and from a place of love, and where you attempt to deliver it in the kindest possible way you can. And, then the rare situations, sometimes there isn't a very kind way to deliver the message. That's okay too. I feel like as long as you are really attempting to not hurt others, then you know why, what you're doing, because somebody sometimes needs a swift kick in the butt, right? Metaphorically speaking. But that is the nature of what I'm trying to get across here. I just feel like the lies fester under the politeness, and our world is in sort of a somewhat sorry state that it's in, because everybody is afraid to upset other people. And I believe that y'all are weak for for being like that. And I think that you just speak the truth and live it, and whatever happens is good. It may not seem good immediately, but it will be good in the future. The more you tell the truth and live in the truth, and maybe the liars in your life can't handle that and they may leave, but and as long as you're also attempting to always second guess your own BS, right? Like, we need to also make sure that we're not projecting onto other people. When you see an attempt to serve somebody else, you should definitely be looking at yourself first and seeing, what do I need to learn about viewing this person doing this thing? How can I accept them better before I attempt to serve them better? If you're doing all those types of things, I believe you're doing well. I believe, what else can you do? So keep on doing that, my friends. I wish you all the luck in the world, fellow seekers, and thank you for listening to the podcast. So if you appreciated this podcast, you need some links, theoneinfinitecreator.com. Scroll down, and there are sections to download all of this for free from the LL Research people who provide us all this material for free. And if you appreciate my podcasts, I seek to freely give these podcasts just to inspire and share my knowledge and stuff that I've learned over the years in relation to the Law of One. And in learning the Law of One, I've learned it's important to freely give. So I do not put anything behind a paywall. I want to give this podcast freely. And if you appreciate that free service, I would appreciate freely receiving. And so thank you to those that are doing that. You can find on that same website, there's support sections. You can shoot me one-time PayPal or just sign up to my Patreon. Really appreciate the Patreon thing, as that gives me some stability in doing this more long-term, putting more effort, giving me more time to make more in-depth podcasts, hopefully like this one, where I can elaborate on things that I want to elaborate that take a lot of time to think through and put together. And so thank you guys that support the dream in that regard and think that there is value in what I do. You mean the world to me. I love you guys. I'll leave you in the I'll leave you in the peace and the power of the one infinite creator. Take care.